Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. Live. There we are. We are joined here on another episode of the Vision Quest podcast. Just a late night one. Kind of traffic got stuck. Kind of got talking a little bit, and want to kind of get a feel for who you were. But we're able to finally get in-house assistant. Is it associate head coach? What's the title?
Technically, it's associate head coach.
Associate head coach. Okay. So, associate head coach of the University of Indiana, Mike Dixon.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here, man, especially at this time. It's crazy. So thank you very much. In-house. I don't get to get guys in-house that often, except for the local guys. So I'm excited for this one right here. So yeah, Mike Dixon, coaches at the University of Indiana. I know that right now is probably a busy time of season for you, right?
Extremely busy.
Getting around. So we want to make this, is informative as possible, but I don't want to keep you up all night. So with that being said, I want to start from the beginning. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Indiana. I grew up in Indiana.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I was born in a suburb outside of Chicago.
Okay. All right. So what we talk about here typically is where sport started for you. It doesn't have to necessarily be wrestling, right?
Gotcha.
Sport. So what was the first sport you remember?
Oh gosh. I think everybody gets thrown into soccer when they're little. So.
Right.
Probably soccer.
Okay.
I wasn't I don't think I was very good at sports when I was little.
No
soccer. Well, soccer, you just run around, So
Oof. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. I bet when you're 5.
Yes, correct. The bumblebee effect.
Yes,
yeah, around honey. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'd probably say baseball is actually my favorite sport.
Was that like a love when you started playing? Was it like, oh man, I love this?
So I wasn't good at baseball, but
yeah,
growing up in Chicago back in the day, the Cubs were always on WGN.
Yep.
So
correct.
School lets out. There's always a Cubs game on.
Always.
So that's kind of what I did, and then you played outside. So that's kind of why I guess you could say I fell in love with baseball, is because to me it was just always on.
Nice. Okay. So with being in Indiana, obviously we know it's kind of a basketball state, but either way, with baseball, you had obviously someone was there to help you, get you to practice. What was the dynamic like with the parents? Where was it? Because I know you mentioned obviously that your dad knew of sports, he knew the baseball, things like that, but what was he the ride? Was he the hey, I'm gonna come and watch you and I wanna learn as much as possible? Or were they just kind of off in the back and this is your thing, we trust what you're doing with who you're doing that with?
No, they were more just the trust and make sure you're at where you're supposed to be.
Okay.
And I had a little league right down the street, so I was close enough where a lot of times I could just ride my bike to practice. All that stuff. So
okay, nice.
A lot of times it was on me to get to practice. The only real memory I have is one time in practice. Like I said, I wasn't very good at baseball. I just liked it. A fly ball hits me in the nose, and you're little, start crying. And I remember going home, and then my dad comes home and kind of looks at me strange because whatever time he came home, I wasn't supposed to be at home. I was supposed to be at practice, and I was like, I got hit in the nose and blah blah blah, and looks at me, grabs me, puts me back in the car, go back to practice.
Oh man. All right.
Yeah.
That's a lesson.
You're supposed to be at practice.
Yeah. Okay. So did that leave an impression on you then, as far as like, further on down the road, like, hey, like this is important. I should be here no matter what.
Yeah. Just, hey, it doesn't matter what happens. You're supposed to be where you're supposed to be. So
right on.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Sets a precedent for you. So as you're, kind of, we're gonna kind of go all the way through and figure out exactly what kind of drove you and got you to wrestling. So yeah, baseball, soccer, we talk about that a little bit. Now, grade school, what was that, baseball and soccer? You hadn't touched wrestling yet in grade school?
No.
Okay.
Middle school, it's probably a challenge for everybody.
Yeah.
My mom had never really wanted me to play football.
Okay.
So I went out for 7th grade. Wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Went out again for 8th grade. Still wasn't very good.
Okay.
And I think I had tried. This was the last year I tried baseball.
Yeah.
Wasn't very good at that. The rule of thumb in my house was you have to be involved with something. You're like,
okay,
we don't care what, but you're going to do something in addition to school.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the times have changed.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of that around anymore.
No.
There's not a lot of, you need to be doing something. That was it with Liam. I mean, I think we had the same thought. I mean, I was in sports, but we didn't know he was going to be wrestling until when we found out that he liked to punch kids in preschool.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah. And my wife suggested karate, and I was like, he doesn't have patience for that. He can't sit still that long. And we found wrestling. So how was it? Was it just your dad found a flyer? We hear that story a lot and said, hey, or had a buddy?
No, so I had a paper route because I sucked at sports in middle school.
Okay.
Ended up
Throw a
having
paper though.
Paper route. Paper out in the lawn mowing business.
Nice.
And then freshman year, still trying football.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, I was trying to be like a running back or something. And
yeah,
they were like, yeah, this isn't working. So they just stuck me on the line. And
yeah.
Like, okay, whatever. But when you get to high school, you know, they start to try and develop you to, you know, there's freshmen, there was JV and varsity. And so after my freshman year, I think I just tried to lift and stuff. And then sophomore year, I start to get a little bit more playing time because I had lifted on the JV, you know. So then after that, I'm like, okay, well, this lifting thing, it seems to be helping me. I'm playing.
Yep.
So I'll just lift in the off season. That's typically what football players do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I actually had a football coach, Coach Carrico was his name.
Okay.
He had kind of a deep, raspy voice. He was like, if you want to be good at football, you need to go wrestle.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I ended up in the wrestling room.
Wow.
And I mean, just like any kid,
you're
just getting whipped, you know?
Yeah.
But I could see I was getting better.
Okay.
In practice. And through competitions, you know, results started to happen for me. The first memory I have of me being on varsity, this was during sophomore year, the guy that was above the weight class, somebody had gotten hurt.
Okay.
So they moved me up. They said, here you go.
Yeah.
We need you to step in.
Yeah.
And a guy was eating a Subway sandwich. I remember vividly. He's eating a Subway sandwich. I go out there. I get pinned in like 10 seconds. Sits back down, unwraps the Subway sandwich, and eats it. And I was like, man, this is embarrassing. This is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
So, but after the regular season's over, the coach came in and like, okay, you know, varsity's trained for postseason, and the freshman JV's like, okay, you know, you guys, thanks for the season, and we'll see you. And by this time, I don't know what it was. Probably with every other wrestler, you kind of get hooked, and you're like, I actually kind of like this. So I asked the coach, I said, can I stay? Like, nice. Do I have to go?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he kind of was like, I don't think anybody ever asked him that before. You know, he's like, sure, if you want.
Yeah.
So I just continued to practice, continue to get better. And, you know, I was very fortunate. And what helped me a lot is there were two guys, the class above me. They were both, at the time, they were, I think, 1 and 2 in the state. They were both highly ranked in the state of Indiana. They both ended up wrestling Division I.
Okay.
So, and those ended up being a lot of times my workout partners and stuff. So that helped accelerate my progress in wrestling, because I had two very, very good guys that, I mean, I got whooped every day, but you know, I could see in competition, well, this is actually getting me better.
Once you got off. Once you get out of the practice room. Yeah. Okay.
Can't do anything in the practice room, but in competition, I actually beat some people.
Bring it out. Yeah, for sure. So obviously, like I could sit and talk to, you know, Van Brill about Super 32s and stuff like that. We didn't have that.
No.
Right. I'm not going to ask your age, but I can tell that we're not far off. And I don't remember Super 32 and stuff like that. I remember my brother, who was 7 years older than I was, those guys would take a trip down to Iowa every year. I don't even remember what the tournament was called. That could have been like the preseason nationals before it was preseason nationals, but it was freestyle, I believe. Yeah. So those guys made one trip down there every single year. We're just some lonely Wisconsin kids up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And they would drive down. I think my dad drove 1 year, and then a couple other dads would drive the next year. So those tournaments I remember. But when you guys, especially in Indiana, what was besides state, was there a coup de grace type tournament that you guys had that you went to?
I mean, Fargo was probably the only thing.
That was the one.
Yeah, that was the one. And I just remember after that sophomore year, they said, okay, now we got to start. I thought I was going to go back to the weight room and lift.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you got to start doing freestyle. And I'm like, what? Got to do what? You know, I mean, probably every kid's journey when you're trying to figure out, okay, you know, you spent all this time teaching me what a takedown was and how to get off bottom. And now you're telling me if I get taken down, don't get off bottom.
Yeah. And I can lock my hands.
You know, like don't lock your hands. Now you can lock your hands. And now you're like, wait, I'm so confused.
So that was the big one. So when you were coming up, you spoke about obviously the practice partners you had. What was probably the toughest, I guess the toughest obstacle you had as a youth wrestler, as a young wrestler? And then what was the toughest obstacle besides the practice room as you got into high school?
Oh gosh. I'd say just persevering every day,
Okay.
I mean, learning how to, in practice, you just think more strength, more effort will get you X, Y, and Z. Because you're always taught, give 110% and, do everything you can. So you're like, okay, I just need to push more and I'll get said result. But, that's not always the case, in wrestling, and kind of learning how to figure things out. I mean, a lot of people talk about going in the lab and figuring stuff out. And obviously you can see it with how wrestling is now. The wrestling is unbelievable now. And it's kids kind of getting into the lab and, figuring things out. And it's not like all this necessarily like effort and just, I just got to push harder, train harder, so just being able to understand and do that at a young age. And obviously you got people that are kind of coaching you, teaching you how to do things,
right?
You kind of make it your own once you kind of get a good feel for it.
I tell you, man, I can totally understand that. Cause the one thing that I see, especially now, is that the mental blocks, because there's so much, right? They got social media now and things like that. I think we had our own, obstacles and just things that got in our way, but it wasn't quite as dramatic as it is now, right? You had your parents back then, and maybe you had some guys around you that make fun of you, whatever it was. But now it's the pressure of, what did someone say on this page, or what did someone say in this forum, and things like that. But when you got into those situations, like, it just sounds like from the stories you're telling, like you were able to kind of you have the mentality of just to overcome something and just to keep pushing and just to keep persevering. What did you have a person that was kind of like, hey, don't worry, I see you're stressing out about this, don't worry about that, just keep going?
I had some pretty good coaches.
Okay.
That, at least they knew how to get the most out of you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think probably what benefited me is me being a sport that my parents didn't really know a lot about.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily, you talked a lot about pressure. So there's not necessarily a bunch of pressure in terms of, oh, you got to do this, this, and this. Cause
right. They didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yep.
He's active in something. He seems to enjoy it and he's trying hard. Okay.
Good. Yeah. Right.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, the coach is just getting the passion out of you, which that's probably the biggest thing I could take from my high school coaches is just drawing the passion out of you and, kind of, again, perfecting your craft and getting better at it.
Yeah. Where'd you go to high school?
Lawrence Central High School.
Okay.
In Indianapolis.
In Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, one of the assistant coaches here is from Indiana. Zach Pearson. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
What high school?
Maybe. Zach should chime in. I know he's watching.
Okay.
I want to say somewhere around the Crown Point area.
Okay.
Around there. I can't remember.
He's a region rat.
Yeah. Either that or it was Indianapolis. I think he said that he grew up in Indianapolis, but I can't remember what school.
Okay.
So he talks a lot about Indiana. You don't hear about it a lot. Like, even there's some kids that when we were traveling around doing dual teams that were, this kid's at Indiana, he was blowing through people. I'm like, what, Indiana? Like, what the hell's going on down there? So
Indiana is, I could say it's hot and cold. It kind of goes in cycles.
Yeah.
There's some years where in terms of the quantity and depth, there's a lot of really talented kids.
Yeah.
And then there are other years it's a little bit thinner.
Sure. Sure.
So, I'm sure every state goes through it's cycles.
Hands down. Well, we had Dave Schultz here in the 80s.
Yeah.
Wisconsin was doing all right for a little bit, and then you got your down cycles, which happens everywhere.
Yep.
So the high school you went to, and again, we talked about tournaments being different. Recruiting was way different then too. You're sending VHS tapes and stuff. You weren't sending video files, and you had to mail it out, or you had to write something out, or type it out, or whatever. And when you were in high school, and I'll jump past your freshman year and we'll talk about maybe sophomore, junior, and we'll come back to freshman quick. It shouldn't shouldn't bother too much. But where were you in the thought process of once you got into sports in high school? Was it sports was something you wanted to continue getting out of high school?
It was just something I did.
It was just something you did.
It was literally just something I did.
So this is amazing. So I don't get this. So this guy, my brain kind of works a little bit. Everybody was like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to do.
I always enjoyed watching sports.
Yep.
And I could sit, if a sport was on TV, I sat and watched it.
Yeah.
You know, because many, many moons ago, I thought I wanted to be a sports broadcaster.
Oh,
you know,
Lucas Peters.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's right. You know, but it was just something I did because I was always taught you're just going to be involved with something.
Sure.
Okay. But I really didn't. This is probably bad. And I don't know if I should say this, but
the door is wide open here, man.
Like, I didn't know who Dan Gable was till my junior year in high school.
Blasphemy.
I had no
understandable.
You know, like college wrestling. That really wasn't. I didn't think about college wrestling until I got my first letter.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And it was like, oh,
okay.
I guess I could do this at the next level.
Now we're talking.
Got a letter. You know, but like it never really. I didn't have a vision.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't necessarily painted for me. It was just kind of like,
sure,
you have a passion for this. Let's just keep getting better.
Yeah.
You know, and then the couple teammates I had, when I was junior, they were senior, they were getting recruited.
Okay.
You know, and then because they were getting recruited, that's probably why I got some interest because
I
hadn't done anything at that point.
So you got caught in the wrestling net, essentially, is what happened. They caught you. And you're like, all right, I'm coming on the boat.
Yeah, basically.
That's so it's for the younger viewers out there. We used to have things called newspapers, and the newspapers didn't get clicks and likes. So they wrote about what they wanted to. So Indiana may not have heard too much about Dan Gable in those times. So that's why I can understand why you didn't hear about him or maybe even know because, hey, you just don't hear about it all the time. And if you won the Olympics in the 70s, you're definitely not going to hear about him, you know, in the early to mid 80s after reading the local newspaper. So that's understandable. But then you just get a letter. Hey, we'd like you to come on over and wrestle at our college. And you're like, all right. What college was that?
Gosh, what was the first letter? I want to say
first. Okay.
I want to say it was like Wabash or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean a bunch of, smaller D3 schools.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
And that sparked your interest a little bit more going into college.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, okay, I could probably do this at the next level. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So when obviously you're still going through high school, did you going through like your freshman year, did you have goals like these kids do now? Or again, was it just hey, I'm just going to show up and do my best?
I just show up
every time.
Yeah. So freshman year, I didn't wrestle. It was just football. I didn't start.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't start wrestling until my sophomore year.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was,
okay.
I didn't have that long-term thought in my head.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to think long-term like that.
Sure.
As a kid, you're just going day by day. Okay.
Doing your thing. Okay.
Today's Wednesday. I go to school. I go to practice.
All right, man. So this is actually something that I'm completely interested in because number one, when I played soccer and the sports that I was in, I was on my own. I didn't go to camps like Liam gets to go to. And that's why he goes because I wasn't afforded that.
Camps were
it was non-existent to me. My brother went to a couple, but if we went to a camp, it was because it was the Olympic development camp down the road, and it was another practice we could go to. Didn't think about an Olympic team. I was like, oh, cool. It's an Olympic development team. I would go and then I make the team. My parents like, well, what next? I was like, oh, I got no idea. So I'm on the same path as what you were.
That's right.
I wasn't getting letters from colleges when I was on the same path. I was just doing something that I really, really liked doing, which was playing sports. I found the one sport. I didn't have the availability because I didn't like school. Don't pay attention to that, kids. Go to school.
That's right.
Go to school.
That's right.
I just wasn't good at it. So when I got the choice to be like, well, I'm not going to be able to do this. I kind of gave up. I'll be honest. It was one of those things where it's like, all right, well, after senior year, this is done. So, I got kind of like a sports depression. Were you ever at a point when you were playing sports, whichever it was, did you ever think that you would just, I'm good on sports. I'm going to go do this over here. Did you ever want to stop doing sports?
No, I always wanted to keep doing sports.
Did you?
You know, that's you gain confidence from it. You have fun. You end up learning how to become a leader.
Yeah.
You know, you become team captain, all that stuff. So, kind of the younger guys and the coaches kind of expect things out of you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're modeling the behavior you want to see. So I always enjoyed that. But it was always just after high school, you just kind of figured, I'm done after this.
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So because now the story kind of turns more obviously as you get older and with the letters coming in, where were your parents when these letters started coming? What was their thought, as far as what were they? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's explore this more, like, were they maybe ones that kind of got you out there a little bit more then once they saw that you had something, or were they just like, okay, we'll come along. What do you need?
My mom always kept the letters.
Okay.
But the rule was always job, military, or school after high school.
Damn.
Those were your three options.
Okay.
And living at home is not one of them.
That's my option too.
So, yeah. So my parents were old school. So
Okay.
Here are your three options.
So
we'll help you figure it out. But
so did you explore the other two? I mean, other than school, did you explore military?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
No. My dad was in the Marines.
Okay.
So I kind of felt like I was in the military.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
So I'm like, yeah.
Good on that. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So school was obviously the option. You're getting letters. Were you taking visits? Were you how did that go back then? Again, I missed the boat.
I just thought it was cool that, when you're 16, 17, there's a letter addressed to me. Like normally all the mail's going to your parents and like, there's something in here for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then my mom kind of kept all that stuff. So it really didn't get serious till senior year.
Okay.
And that was back when you kind of could still be recruited your senior year. Like the recruiting has just changed so much now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I don't know if I necessarily had a long-term vision or plan. And again, nobody in my family had really been down this path. So it's new to everybody.
Interesting. So no new road in general.
Yeah.
New road in general.
Right.
When you got to the point of, okay, I have these letters here. How was it making phone calls to those coaches? Did they come to your house?
No, I was not good enough for people to come to my house. I was not good enough for that. No, it was, the letters. And if there was a questionnaire, then I think usually my mom would fill it out. I really don't even remember filling out paperwork at all. So I think my mom did a lot of the heavy lifting there.
Okay. So how did you pick? How did you go through the process of finding out where you wanted to go?
That's kind of whoever called me showed me the most interest,
See how times have changed, folks? They have changed immensely, right? So what interested you then? Obviously you had to like what you were going into your senior year. I mean,
so really, again,
your selection process, I guess.
It was not a good selection process, but going to my senior year, the junior year in football, and again, football is probably still a little bit more of my passion.
Okay.
And at least at that point, I'm better at football than I am wrestling.
Okay.
So, if anything was going to happen, it was probably going to be on the football end in the back of my mind.
Okay.
Is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And my junior year in high school, our team in Indiana, the state series, it's sectionals, regional, semi-state, and state.
Okay.
And our high school had never won section. It had been a long time since they'd won sectionals. And we got to you had to win like 3 games to advance to sectionals. And for the first time ever, we advanced. I'm sorry, not the first time ever, but the first time in a long time, we advanced to like the sectional championship game.
Okay.
And I think that year we played, it was either Cathedral or Warren Central, a team that was pretty good. We ended up losing. It was kind of tough, but it was like, okay, we're getting better. Let's keep getting
going.
better. Yeah. And then senior year, We played Warren Central in the sectional finals, and they're still pretty good in the state of Indiana. They're kind of one of the powerhouses in Indiana football. So we end up beating them. And then who did we play? No, I'm sorry. We beat Muncie Central.
Oh, okay.
We beat Muncie Central.
Yeah. Muncie.
And then we ended up playing Ben Davis in the regional, which they're also another football powerhouse.
Okay.
We ended up losing to them, and it was this rainy, muddy game and all that stuff. And, like, okay, well, this is probably my last football game. And so it is what it is. And then move on to wrestling.
Yeah.
And what finally kind of got people's attention, not that I got a lot of coaches' attentions, but
come on.
There was a kid in the state. His name was James Brim. He's from Evansville. He had actually wrestled my teammate the year before, and he'd beaten my teammate before. And my teammate ended up winning state that year.
Okay.
So the weight class was 189, and it was me and him, and we had this tight match. I think he lost like 2-0 or 3-0 to him and all that stuff. But then all those letters started picking up from colleges. I noticed the schools were a little bit bigger and more well known on the wrestling end than the football end. I'm like, people must have watched this match. So
maybe a little bit.
That's kind of where, okay, maybe I can do this in college, the wrestling thing.
Okay.
So
what made you pick the school you went to? What was the school you ultimately picked?
Indiana.
What made you pick Indiana? Close to home, that kind of thing?
No, I mean, distance really wasn't a thing for me.
No?
Yeah. Growing up, I'd actually never really liked Indiana, to be honest with you.
Okay. Interesting.
It was always Indiana basketball was the thing. And, I was just kind of like, don't really like that. But you visit a place and you kind of fall in love with it. And I knew several of the guys on the team, and, just mingling with the guys on the team and all that stuff. Yeah. Kind of after that visit, I was like, oh, maybe I could see myself here.
It felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So your choice is Indiana. What was what was it like as you're kind of, were you excited about college? Were you nervous? Was it, or was it just the next step?
It was just kind of the next step, and I didn't know what to expect in college.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was just learning everything, and,
were you afraid?
I was probably too stupid to be afraid.
Not going there. Not going there in my basement. Nope. So it's intriguing because a lot of what drove you was just kind of inside. Like it was your dad, said, hey, nope, you need to go to practice, right? You need to do this. It's just what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the mentality it seems kind of going through.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And it's just like, you keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you just kind of keep coming along. And, like I said, the only little, I guess you say mandate.
Yeah.
Was, again, job, military, or school. And after 18,
you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
It's kind of our house rule.
Yeah. So, get out of here. So.
And I can appreciate that in a fact of that, because again, this is kind of our mentality as well. It's not that we don't love him, but it's time.
Yeah. It's time.
It's time to do you. It's time for you to get your thing going, So I can appreciate that, because it doesn't sound like it was a God, get out of here, kind of situation. No. It sounds like it was a, hey, this is life, and this is what you gotta do.
This is the real world now. So
spread your wings.
At 18, you're your real world options.
Yeah.
So
what did you encounter any type of like a I don't want to say mental breakdown, but kind of like a I miss how it was type depression, kind of thing? Did you ever run into that, or were you so involved in whatever you were doing you didn't have time to think about that?
No, because I mean, where I ended up going to school, I'm not that far away from home.
True. Very true.
Yeah. And I always felt like I was an independent type person. And like I said, wrestling was still new to me. Going in my freshman year, it was sophomore, junior, that was my 4th year wrestling. You know, I mean, you're talking everybody else in the wrestling room probably has a good 10 years in them. I got 4 years. And, like I said, I didn't know who Dan Gable was. And like my college coach, Dwayne Goldman, was the NCAA champ.
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue. I'm just like, oh, that's kind of nice.
It's neat.
Like I'm so new and naive to everything.
What was so because of you were in football and wrestling, now going into a college room, was that a culture shock?
Probably the shock was just the amount of what I thought was hard work.
Yeah.
And what was shown to me to be hard work were 2 different things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, this is what working hard is. This is, and you just got to learn everything.
Yeah.
And I back then everybody had the red shirt, and I 1,000%, I probably needed 4 red shirts.
Sure.
Just because I'm just so new and naive to everything.
Yeah.
So I literally just kind of learning and taking things in, and again, just okay, I'm just trying to get better.
No, so you're just in the room, quiet, learning, taking in what you could.
Getting my ass kicked.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Too.
But it sounds almost like the model of what kind of like an underclassman is almost expected to do when they come in the room. Like, you just pay attention, listen, take it in, and you'll get your wings as you go along, just like mom and dad want you to get your wings, kind of thing. So as you're going in through the college process and you get into the room and you start wrestling, where did you wind up in a starting position as you kind of got through it?
So I had a red shirt, and I'm obviously looking back, I wish I would have taken that a lot more seriously. So my red shirt freshman year, I could not, 197, that was my weight class. I couldn't beat the guy. We had a 5th year senior that was top 15 in the country.
Okay.
I could not beat him. So the coaches actually pulled me inside and said, hey, why don't you just wrestle heavyweight? So, there's an opportunity for me at heavyweight. So I ended up wrestling, and I didn't have a very good year, but by the end of the year, again, keep getting better.
Yeah.
I ended up qualifying for nationals.
Nice.
So and I'm an undersized heavyweight, and the heavyweights back then, I'm trying to think. I think Michigan had Aaron Richardson, who was multi-time All-American. Shelton Benjamin.
I remember that name.
Minnesota.
Yep.
I'm trying to think some of the other guys, but there are a lot of.
It's been a while.
Heavyweight has changed, and back then, at least to me, it felt like.
Yeah.
Back then, it felt like these guys were huge.
Right.
They are. Huge, and
Yep.
I just remember a lot of times I got my butt handed to me.
Yeah, but heavyweight was fat back then, though, too. Like, the game's changed.
Those guys weren't fat.
No.
Shelton Benjamin ended up, in the WWE. And,
okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. Yep. Yep.
Aaron Richardson, he's actually a doctor now, and I've connected with him when I was at Beat the Streets. I actually reconnected with him. He's a successful doctor in Chicago now.
Nice.
And he remembered me.
No offense to those guys. I don't want to be caught in the street somewhere saying they're fat or something.
No. But I mean, these guys, were pretty ripped and jacked, and was undersized, and my technique wasn't very good. Really the only thing I had was strength, and I'm trying to outmuscle guys that are bigger and stronger than me. So it doesn't work all the time.
Right.
So
okay. So obviously you have work to do, but you already have this mindset of I just need to keep working. It's going to pay off.
Yeah. Kind
of thing. That mentality. So there's never really been at this point a breakdown point.
No. Cause like I said, I think I was just so new to everything that it's like, I didn't have time to, I'm just too new to everything.
Right. You're doing the thing. And honestly, that's a coach's dream. Right? That's obviously you're new, but still you're a sponge. You're willing to take it in.
Yeah.
once you get through your first couple of years of college, you made tournaments. I mean, what was your biggest challenge as far as an opponent back then? Besides first starting, I mean, obviously we know, but once you kind of got in the room and you had some experience in NCAA wrestling, who was your biggest like challenging opponent?
Who?
Yeah, who? Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, I had a couple of matches against Brock Lesnar that.
Wow. Okay.
It did not end up on my side, So
not a fat heavyweight.
Not a fat heavyweight. I mean, I was always more often than not the smaller guy.
Okay.
And obviously, I mean, the Big Ten's always been good. So it's a super high level conference and a lot of good guys, coming through it. So trying to figure out how to beat people in just the mental game and mental aspect of it, that post college where you really start diving into it and where you kind of like, oh man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done this, man. I really think I could have taken off had I done X, Y, and Z, So, I mean, I don't want to miss anybody, but I just, in the Big Ten, they were all very challenging.
Okay.
When I was, I think either my junior or senior year, that's Tommy Rowlands was coming along. And he's a 2-time NCAA champ.
Yep.
He was smaller than the other guys. So I'm like, okay, this guy isn't as big as these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rowlands had a lot of good technique and he was quick. I was flat-footed and slow. So it's like, well, it's not working out very well for me.
Yeah. Where did you wind up? I guess halfway, like your junior year. What was there a progression in college for you? Was it as you're wrestling? Was there record wise, or you lost to this guy one year, but you beat him the next year, kind of thing?
So I had a lot of back and forth with a guy, Matt Lamb, from Michigan State.
Okay.
As far as progression, I was getting better, but it wasn't necessarily always showing, know, and like freshman year, I qualified for nationals. My sophomore year, I actually ended up breaking my leg 2 weeks before Big Tens, and I was having a solid, again, the progression. So that was kind of tough. And then the guy they ended up putting in Big Tens for me, how it works at Big Tens is you are the he had to end up because he didn't have a record at the weight. So he's the last seed. So he draws the tops. I mean, his 2 draws that year at Big Tens were West Hand and Brock Lesnar. So,
that's not
and I was an undersized heavyweight, and this guy, he was like, I think he was a 174 pounder, 174, 184 pounder. So he really undersized. Yeah. So, I'm sitting in crutches in the stands, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry.
So sorry, buddy. So sorry.
Yeah.
So you had you definitely had a progression. I'm more impressed, obviously, by the mentality of just, I mean, like you say, you just didn't know you're doing just what you thought you had to do, right? To make things go. At what point, once you, I guess, got to like junior, senior year, what were your thoughts of what you wanted to do? Did you have future thoughts of things that you wanted to do from that point? Because you got a lot, man. I mean, looking at the background, the coaching that you did, and just from the length of it, you've been doing it a while. This isn't, it's not just like 5 years you've been doing it. You've been doing it for a while, man.
I tell everybody I'm the old man on staff.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also want to know more of like there must be a passion that obviously got put into you at some point because you've been doing it for this long now.
Yeah. It's just, I think what I've always liked about wrestling, and this is probably, a lot of wrestlers will tell you they're stubborn and is
yep, for sure.
I've got that stubbornness in me, but I kind of liked the independence of being able to figure stuff out. And at the end of the day, it's on you.
Yeah.
Right. So, and obviously I enjoyed my time playing team sports and all that stuff, but you could do your part, but if somebody doesn't do X, then, the play falls apart and all that stuff, which there's value to that stuff too. But I kind of like just the work you put in, and at the end of the day, it's you and somebody else. And, if you fall short, you got to look at you and figure out, okay, what do I need to fix? This book I'm reading, Leading with Dignity, in there, it talks about, it says something about failure only means that something needs to change, and that, I read that passage to our team because I think that's impactful and just like, that's not a be all end all or a hey, this is where you are. It's just like, okay, what do we need to fix?
Yeah.
And that's what we try to stress to our guys,
Couldn't agree more with that. So you're getting through college. Where do you start the coaching mindset? Where do you start to grasp to that?
So probably like everybody else, once you get a degree, okay, now what?
Now, yeah,
I've been told get this degree. I got this degree. Now what?
What was your degree?
Public affairs management.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So, I had an opportunity, and Dwayne was kind enough to kind of keep me around and help out with the guys for a year.
Yeah.
But basically, I ended up probably working a lot more than coaching because I needed money.
Sure.
So,
no way.
I ended up, as far as getting the passion for coaching, I ended up moving back to Indianapolis and was an assistant coach for 1 year at a inner city high school, Arsenal Technical High School, in Indianapolis.
Okay. Nice.
And that's kind of where I got, I guess, the niche for coaching, because the head coach at the time, he was ready to pass this along and, hey, I'm done. And he basically like, you run everything. I'll do all the paperwork and stuff, make sure the buses are where they need to be, but here you go. And the team had the best season it had in 15, 20 years. So I was kind of like, okay, wow. Hey, I had an impact.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of like this, but I didn't feel like the high school level was necessarily the level for me.
Okay.
So, and I also didn't have a teaching license. So at the end of the day, when the job came open, the AD was like, well, we hired this guy because he has a teaching license, so he's in the building. You're not in the building.
Yeah.
But we want you to still stay on. And I was like, nah, I'm good.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a teacher. No. Yeah. Okay. So that was kind of obviously a blocker, but that obviously you had something in your head. I can do this.
Yeah.
Where did you go? What road took you where after that?
Then my old high school coach was actually coaching at the University of Indianapolis.
Okay.
So, and I can't remember how we got reconnected, but somehow we got reconnected. And somebody put in my head that, well, if you help coach there, they'll pay for classes and you can go get a master's or your teaching license, and then you can do that. So it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah.
And this was the college level. So I'm pretty much fresh out of college. So at the University of Indianapolis at the time, that year, they'd had the best season that they'd ever had. And we had a bunch of other guys that were all in the room, fresh out of college, and basically were working out with these guys. So it was probably a twofold benefit. I'm getting some of my classes paid for, and these guys at the University of Indianapolis are getting probably this infusion of workout partners they'd never had before.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There was I was in the room. There's one of my old high school teammates. He wrestled at Michigan State. He was in the room. There's another guy that wrestled at Purdue. He was in the room, so there was a bunch of guys just fresh out of college, from the Division I level, helping out this Division II team. So
spread some knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously that program took a step up.
Yeah. Just a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So that was your first real college opportunity to be able to coach.
Yep.
Was that scary? Was that any type of fear for you going through that? Was that so new to you too that you were just kind of like, okay, what do I got to do? Just next step.
Yeah, it was just kind of,
damn it, Mike. That's good. I mean, hey, that's the best mentality to be able to have.
But that's kind of where I started kind of reflecting in terms of, okay, what changes could I have made during my college career where you start passing it along to other people?
Yeah.
In terms of giving guidance.
Yep.
Okay. And stuff. So I think, and just seeing on my end, seeing that kids are actually getting better probably gives you more confidence as a coach too.
Way
it's
more.
like, okay, hey, this is working. I'm actually getting through to so-and-so. Because sometimes you think you're making it clear, you think you're getting through to people, and
nope,
it's not happening.
Giant wall, brick wall.
Yeah, it's not happening.
I can agree with that, because I remember just coaching little kids, and there's a kid that was afraid of a soccer ball, right? The ball went up in the air and he ducked like it was a bomb threat, right? And I in my head, I said, I'm going to make sure that kid by the end of the season is not afraid of a ball. I did a couple things maybe that I shouldn't have, but the kid understood, and it wasn't hurt. It wasn't anything like real bad, but I put him in at goalie because the ball's going to come at you. Yeah. And you can't run from it, because if you run from it, it's not going to be good. So I took him personally. I'd kick the ball while he's in the goal and just be like, just stand there. I'm not going to hit you. Promise. Just trying to score a goal. Okay. So I would just kick it. And finally, by the end of the season, that ball would be kicked at his face. He didn't even care. I love that.
Yeah.
That's that progression that I love as far as coaching. I didn't care if the kid scored a goal. I didn't care if he passed the ball properly. I just wanted to look the ball in the eye. If it was in the air, coming at him, whatever. So I can totally agree with that when it comes to coaching, knowing that you made some type of an impact. You had a unique situation and a unique opportunity with Beat the Streets.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, one of my good friends and teammates, Mike Powell.
Okay.
He had a very successful coaching career at Oak Park River Forest High School. And his new passion became Beat the Street Chicago. And there's a bunch of different chapters. And he was getting on the ground floor developing that. And during COVID, when everything had shut down, we just started.
Damn C word.
Yeah. We just started having conversations, and at this time I had been coaching for a decent amount of time.
Yep.
Yep. And I'm like, okay, my goal is always, I want to be a head coach, And at this point it hadn't happened yet. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this isn't in the cards for me.
Sure.
So, and at Beat the Street Chicago, they were looking to expand and kind of look for somebody to take over the kind of wrestling aspect of it, as well as the enrichment piece of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So kind of here's the business side of it that somebody's going to take over. And in terms of the programming and the wrestling portion, we need somebody in charge of this. So after a bunch of conversation, I'm like, why not? Let's try this.
Interesting.
And it was still a way for me to be involved with wrestling. That was probably career-wise in terms of being able to shift, because coaching to me, maybe it's kind of come naturally, I guess, but leading youth and young people versus leading adults, two different things.
Yes.
Getting kids that are kind of already part of a team to kind of reach a shared and common goal, that I found to be not as challenging as, trying to get adults to kind of do the same thing, You
ain't lying.
And
for sure.
There's a challenge to it. And Powell mentored me a lot about, basically kind of, you've got to lead people, and it's not your job to necessarily do everything, but your job is to kind of help set this vision, and there was always books he would recommend I read, and he'd connect me with different groups in terms of people and just learning how to lead. Cause I had to learn how to lead, because I thought I knew how to lead. I had no idea how to lead.
Sure.
Had zero idea how to do it.
Sure.
So that was a challenge, and it took me a while, and that's probably the thing that you're always evolving and trying to grow it. And that's, to this day, for the last couple of years, a lot of the books I read are leadership focused and all that stuff, because I think it's a challenge. It's a constant challenge.
For sure. So it obviously brought you some unique opportunities, unique challenges. You were able to open up more as a person. Sounds like being able to, understand that different things I need to do to lead. That I'm not doing the right things. Were there ever the challenges that I guess maybe made you decide to not do it anymore? Was it too much, or was it just the time was up? Like I got another opportunity that is more kind of geared towards what I really want to do. How did that all go?
No, it was.
It's not like you only did it for a year. You know what I'm
saying? I did beat the streets for 2 years there, and we had started during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
When I first got on board, there were 8 kids on Zoom.
Whoa!
And that's during COVID, depending on where you were, is kind of what the rules were and how everybody treated it. And in Chicago and in the city, it was treated, a certain way where, the protocols were, I'd say, followed probably to a T.
Yeah.
What helped grow our organization is obviously everybody, I think, learned a lot during COVID. And what a lot of the parents learned is my young teenage boy or girl or youth boy or girl sitting at home and doing nothing is not good.
Correct.
Period.
Correct. I don't even think it's good for me as an adult.
Right. Correct. Correct. So we were fortunate that in the process, before I jumped on board, they had already bought a facility.
Okay.
Because they'd already realized it beat the streets. Because before they were just whatever high school or gym had space. Okay, this is where the practice is today. So it's
okay
on different days. It's at different places.
Okay.
And of course, that gets confusing to people. And
sure,
when you're dealing with a sport that you're trying to introduce to kids, and kids that have never wrestled before and all that stuff, that it just gets confusing to everybody.
Sure,
it gets confusing to parents. They got to work all day, and then wait, you were here Tuesday, and now we got to go where and do what?
Yeah.
So they had bought a building, and they're like, no, we're going to have a dedicated facility where kids can come to.
Okay.
So once we'd finally opened that, we still had to follow kind of COVID restrictions, and they started easing back up, and then, things got worse and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
back and forth.
At one point, COVID had gotten so bad again that, at least in Chicago, everybody had to have a vax card, or these were adults. The adults had to have a vax card.
Okay.
Or they wouldn't let you in the building.
Okay.
And the city of Chicago told every business, you better enforce this, and we're sending people around to make sure you're enforcing this. And if you don't, then we're going to fine your business and all that stuff. So
what?
Yikes. It was the thing. And Chicago, depending upon where you are, people react to those things, I guess you could say, differently.
Sure. Yep.
But at the end of the day, we were a youth organization. Our goal was youth. So we ended up coming to the understanding, and our policy became, look, we're not trying to get political with this, and we don't care about your stance on COVID.
Yep.
We're here for the kids.
Yep.
So no parents are in the building, whether you're vaccinated or not. Just you're dropping your kid off.
Yep.
You can stay in the parking lot if you want, but you can't come in, because we're not going to be the COVID police. We're like, we're not in that business. We're here to help get your kids better.
As a parent, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Totally.
And most of the parents were on board.
Yep.
And they were fine with it.
Yep.
But what started happening, and then obviously the spring came, we started getting more and more people introduced to wrestling, because again, the parents are like, my kid has to do something.
Sure.
And they knew in this particular neighborhood in Chicago, hey, this place just opened. It's a physical activity. Go do it.
Yeah. Right. No kidding.
Go do it.
Yeah.
And I remember one parent came up to me. She was picking her kid up, and she said, I don't know what it is you guys are doing here, but my kid comes home. He's tired. He goes to bed, and he loves it.
Thank you.
so she was literally like, just keep doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, right.
You know, so we grew the organization, and by the time I left, it was over 2,000.
Damn, Mike. Wow.
And it was the largest wrestling organization in the United States.
Wow.
And
well done.
And since then, they've expanded. I know they've opened up another facility. Like, so they're doing a great job over at Beat the Street Chicago.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, honestly, to hear that's able to come out of that situation.
Yeah.
Whole just, I don't even, every time, and almost everybody that I've had on here, from college athletes to coaches, that COVID shit comes up all the time. And it's like, I can't believe that kids had to like endure the stuff that adults were. It was just crazy. So not even to politicize it, just thinking about it in general and what people had to go through. So that's awesome that you guys were able to pull that through. That's significant.
I mean, there's a great team up there, and there's a lot of great leadership up there.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a vision, and there's a plan, and like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed my time up there, and it as far as it, although it was short, as far as the 2-year stretch, I probably learned more in those 2 years than I have in my entire time coaching.
Did you find yourself, because you talked about having to learn how to lead, did you find yourself embracing how to lead at that point?
Probably not in the beginning, because I thought I knew it. I'm good.
Sure. You're still learning a little bit more.
And then, no, I'm not good. You know, it's just different. And then when you start talking to other people and other leaders and other organizations, you know, some had similar mission statements. There was another organization that was pretty similar to Beat the Streets, but they did it with boxing. You know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
So we kind of had a group where we would meet pretty regularly and kind of discuss, you know, challenges and all that stuff, and
workshop a little bit.
Yeah. But one of the things that this guy shared with me that kind of stuck with me, and you know, ever since he said it, maybe it's just because I've noticed more people saying it more, but you know, a lot of times where people fall short is because the end goal isn't clear or success isn't defined.
Sure.
So if me and you are trying to get to point B, but I'm not making it clear to you about what our mission is and what exactly we should be accomplishing, you might take it one way, I'd take it another, and then all of a sudden we're not on the same page, and you know,
gone different ways.
Yeah. You know, so one of the things he stressed to me is you have to define what success is and make sure everybody understands that this is what success is. This is what it looks like.
Okay.
He said, if you start from there, and ever since that I've been in different workshops, and they've all pretty much said the same thing: define what success is, let people understand this is what it is, and then from there kind of work backwards. And that's where you kind of give people the freedom and the autonomy to do it their way.
Yeah.
Because my way may not necessarily be the same as your way.
Right.
But if you know this is our end goal, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Okay. I know I have a way to get there.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Perfect.
We can learn together.
Perfect.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
So you Beat the Streets. What was Indiana right after Beat the Streets?
It was before and after.
Before and after. Well, yeah, before,
yes.
But then right after was Indiana after Beat the Streets.
Yep.
Which is where you are now.
Yep.
What brought you to Indiana? Was it a phone call from someone, or did you know of an opportunity that opened up and you're like, hey, how'd that happen?
It was a phone call. Angel called me.
Mr. Escobedo.
We had actually had him up for a clinic.
Oh, okay.
I think it was around the time we were doing the first ever Beat the Streets national duels.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, and then called after, and you know, we just started talking, and over the summer we just kind of kept talking, and then, you know, talking to the AD and all that stuff. And, I think having gone to school there's always a place in your heart for, you know, what you define as, you know, home, and you want to make sure that I want to see this program be successful, and I know it can be great. I know it can be elite, and, you know, making sure that it gets to that point.
Yeah.
I think is important, you know, and
definitely
that's what we've been trying to do the last couple of years here.
Yeah. I'd say. I mean, you got a couple guys already. I mean, well, not a couple guys that I know of already that are on the roster, but now you picked up some. So I mean, the vision has obviously changed from where it was, right? And Angel takes over, and things have come around. Now you're on board, and things do seem to be on the climb, right? When you talk about defining success, what is defining success right now at the University of Indiana?
Well, the biggest thing that we teach our guys is, number one, you got to give your best effort.
Mm-hmm.
But we have 3 core values that when we are in the recruiting process with kids, we want to make sure that kids are aligned with those, growth, giving, and gratitude.
Okay.
And
3 G's.
3 G's.
Yeah.
And there's a huge sign in a wrestling room. Those are the 3 G's, and our guys know it.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back, we talked earlier about, not necessarily everybody was on the same page, but we had a team meeting one time, and this was before the sign was up.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do we have values and all that stuff? And, some of the guys said, yeah. And I said, okay, where are they? And there was silence, crickets. And I'm like,
I don't know.
Okay, this is part of the problem. I said, the fact that we don't know this, I said, this is an issue.
Yeah.
So, when I came back, within the first couple of weeks, we kind of had to have a, if you will, come to Jesus meeting.
Sure.
And no ill will to anybody that was, in the team, but, sometimes you got to get everybody on the same page and get the right people on, as they say, get the right people on the bus and
on board,
get the wrong people off the bus. And that was kind of one of those meetings where, this is where this program's going. You're welcome to come along, but there are no options.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. We're doing it this way.
Yep.
So
you defined it fairly well.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, we have a great staff, and, making sure we are getting kids that align with those values, I think, is extremely important. Because I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that can teach wrestling moves to people. Like,
sure,
you can find thousands and thousands of coaches to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But making sure you're getting the right kid and coaches that are selfless and pouring into the kids to get the best out of them. And I mean, at the end of the day, Angel always says he wants somebody to kind of beat all his records in Indiana.
Sure.
So, we got a great staff where, you got Angel Escobedo, he's a 4-time All-American.
Yep.
You got Riley Lefevre, he's a 4-time national champ, trained over at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club.
Yep.
You got CJ Red, he was
just joined the staff, I believe, right?
Yep. He's the young buck, and he connects with the young kids really well. I'm the old man on staff, and he's the young buck. It's
a great dynamic. I mean, you have something to touch each kind of area of whatever an athlete essentially is kind of needing to be able to kind of grow. So I think that's a path to success in my mind, as far as anything that you guys are trying to do. Obviously you can only do so much. The rest of the people have to follow along. So that's where you're at now, and you're making your trips right now and kind of doing the off season thing that I'm sure there's probably 30 other coaches driving around and doing other stuff like that right now too. So much luck to you guys. But I guess at the end, I don't want to keep it to it. We've been going for about an hour. I want to give you the opportunity for shout outs and to whoever, if it's coaches, things like that. And then I think I want you to give something to the kids as far as what are you as a coach? And it probably could apply to almost every coach that's out there when it comes to the NCAA. What are you as a coach looking for in an athlete? Sure. We know the 3 G's. We talked about that.
That's right.
Well, what are the 3 like some other things that you think that you would want an athlete to present to you?
Yeah. As far as what an athlete presents, obviously, one of the things we talked about earlier is I like, when I'm recruiting, I like showing up to practice.
Yeah. Yep.
I think I just learned so much more about a kid, their environment, how they train, how they treat people. And that helps with the evaluation process. Cause obviously you can tell if a kid can wrestle like that. That takes 2 minutes.
You're obviously watching them for a reason.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This kid knows how to wrestle.
Yep.
And I always try to tell people, once coaches, and this is in any sport, once coaches have identified, okay, you have the physical tools and capability to compete at this level.
Mm-hmm.
A coach is really now trying to find reasons why shouldn't they be here? What, so they're peeling back the layers. And, as a coach, you trying to talk to as many people in that kid's inner circle.
Yeah.
To figure out, what makes this kid tick, is there anything I need to be aware of? And, at the end of the day, we want kids that love wrestling, because they're going to be hard. Everything's not going to be this nice linear journey, and, it's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
And you got to have a passion and a love and a drive that keeps you going.
Yeah.
Because when it's not easy, and mom and dad aren't there, mom's not there to hug you.
Yeah.
That stuff,
for sure.
The coaches might be on you, so like, the ever eternal journey about, I just keep trying to get better, and, see how kids react when things are difficult. That's probably the biggest thing that I want to know. When things are hard, you don't necessarily get what you want. How do you respond?
I think I've heard that before.
Yes.
I think it's like I said, it seems like it's what every coach is looking for. Like, where are you at when the chips fall?
Yes.
What, are you still crying before your third place match comes up or whatever, or have you gotten over it because now you have to focus? So, I think it's beautiful insight. I think it's honestly the real thing that kind of keeps coaches in tune with any of the kids. Cause like you said, you can watch a kid wrestle at a tournament, but a kid in a wrestling room, in a practice room, that's where he might show the stuff because he's under pressure. He's got to do certain things at a tournament. In a practice room, he doesn't have pressure. He's normal Joe, everyday Joe. What's he look like when he's everyday Joe? That makes a lot of sense, because a lot of parents live off this fact that they think that, well, every college coach is watching this portion of your tournament. And are they though? Like, are they watching every aspect of the tournament? They may watch a couple, sure. Once they see that couple, then they're like, okay, we got that. Now what?
A little secret about college coaches at tournament. That's more just about FaceTime to say, hey, I was here and all that stuff.
Okay. Okay.
They already know if you could wrestle or not. So like, I mean, they're there to say, hey, I was here and all that stuff. And then obviously if you can rub elbows with parents and all that stuff, you want to do that. But
right. Okay.
They already know you can wrestle.
Okay. So that's, I guess, one more question before we get to the shout outs here. When you guys do your weights and scales of a guy that you're interested in, I mean, obviously you're not going to travel. Are you looking up results at least then? Okay. How did he do here? And what was that like? Oh, okay. This happened here. Let me check that one matchup.
If there's
I'm coming from a coach's frame of mind on that. This isn't even like a parent really. This is, I'm kind of interested.
If there's like a particular high level tournament where, there's a bunch of kids, where you're like, okay, I'd like to see how they competed against these similar type kids. That's fine.
Okay.
But like I said, at the end of the day, Fargo just happened, right? I mean, you run that tournament back 10 different times, you're probably getting 10 different results.
Sure.
That particular week, it turned out however it turned out.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the kid that took first is that much superior to the kid that took eighth and all that stuff. And, there are kids that didn't place that are more than capable of placing, you know?
For sure.
So results are, at the end of the day, yes, you have to have the skill level and the abilities to compete
right
at the Division I level. And for us, the Big Ten. But once we identify that, which it's pretty quickly in the recruiting process, like I said, it's more all the other stuff that we're trying to dig and figure out, and obviously making sure, are you the right fit?
Sure. Yeah. Because you're, like you said, you're trying to create an environment where it's a successful environment. So you want to have those kids that are going to come in and present that and put that through. So I can appreciate that. So shout outs, you got any?
Shout out to all the hardworking coaches out there.
That's right. That's right. Keep it. You're one of them. I'm going to say you're one of them. That's fine. Perfect. Same thing from here. I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate the time you guys put in. So this is not easy. You're sitting in my basement right now. Does anybody understand that? The time he's putting in.
I was destined to be here.
So we appreciate that. We appreciate your time. We are going to end this because it's time to end it. And we're going to go that. It's been another episode of the Vision Quest podcast. It's been a pleasure, Mike. I appreciate you, Mr. Dixon, for joining me on such a late night. I appreciate you making your way here. I wish you nothing but luck. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit once we're done here. But that's about it, folks. We're out.
All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment, very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.